Social tourism.
In this lesson, let us understand the concept of social tourism. Social tourism is an extremely diverse and complex phenomenon, and its meanings vary depending on the time periods and countries under discussion. A partial list of terms which may be synonymous for social tourism gives a good idea of the breadth and complexity of social tourism. It may include tourism for workers, for families, associations, often employees of one organization, for personal development associated with a vocation to promote social cohesion on a non-profit basis or in the public interest. It may include tourism for workers, for families, associations, often employees of one organization, for personal development associated with a vacation to promote social cohesion on a non-profit basis or in public interest. Social tourism is usually defined in terms of the objectives pursued, the methods employed for achieving them, and the outcomes of participation. The following criteria are identified as being among the most fundamental underpinnings of this concept and practice.
First, social tourism recognizes the basic right of all, irrespective of their social, financial, or geographical situations, to obtain leave from work and to have vacations. It reflects concerns for the availability and accessibility for vacationing at reasonable, affordable prices. Second, it acknowledges the importance of leisure and holidays as exceptional occasions needed for the physical and cultural development of individuals, promoting their socialization and integration into the community of workers as well as the broader society. Third, it reflects the concern of its proponents that social tourism should be an instrument of economic development, a means of managing and enhancing the national territory, and at the same time preserving the natural and human environments of the destinations. Social tourism policies are equally heterogeneous with respect to the involvement of the state, local community groups, and employment associations. These policies show the priority given to the various ways of assisting people to take holidays. Further, they are also concerned with the provision of basic infrastructure, especially that of specialized lodgings, accommodation for families and associations, holiday villages, campgrounds, youth hostels, and other types of accommodation. In this lesson, we shall discuss the origins of social tourism, actors of social tourism, recipients of social tourism, challenges for the future, and the International Social Tourism Organization or ISTO. Origins of social tourism. Tourism, as in its present form, only appeared in the 19th century. At that time, it was accessible only to the elite, since the laws ruling labor did not include holidays for employees who had to go to work every day, including Sundays. Therefore, possibilities for most of the population to go on holidays were very limited. The actions of social tourism started in 1936 when the International Labour Organization or the ILO agreed on the Holiday with Pay Convention. The substance of this convention has also been mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 that everyone has the right to rest and leisure, including reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. We can consequently say that social tourism was born out of an ethical demand. This demand was claimed by activists who justified their legitimacy with a specific right, that is, the right to tourism, as a natural extension of the right to work, to rest, and to holidays with pay. Nevertheless, some historians believe that social tourism was born a few decades earlier with the development of holiday camps for the underprivileged children. The educational interest of those camps was later discovered and the scope of action widened to every child and not just the underprivileged, and the creation of youth hostels in the beginning of the 20th century. The idea of the campsites and bed and breakfast also appeared at the end of the 19th century. At that time, most of the tourist infrastructures belonged to the private sector. It was only after the Second World War ended that social policies on tourism appeared in some countries, thanks to the aid given to buildings as subsidy for constructing, renovating and updating infrastructure, and the aid provided to people to go on holidays. Numerous associations were created as well under the auspices of trade unions, family movements, works, councils, etc., which all had one common objective: to develop and expand social tourism. Above these associations, which were often operating on a national level at the end of the war, federations were created on a national or international level, bringing together organizations striving for the same goal. In 1963, the International Bureau of Social Tourism, or BITS, was created. Its founder, Arthur Hollow, ensured for many years the promotion and development of social tourism at an international level. Concepts and definitions. Considering the diversity of perceptions of social tourism, there is no single definition of this concept. A more operational definition, as suggested by Professor Louis Jolin from the University of Quebec in Montreal, is that social tourism refers to programs, events and activities that enable all population groups, and particularly youth, families, retirees, individuals with modest incomes, and individuals with restricted physical capacity, to enjoy tourism while also attending to the quality of relations between visitors and host communities. Providing access to outdoor activities, particularly for young people, represents another form of social tourism and serves to democratize the zones affected in terms of recreational, social, and also educational opportunities. More recently, in 2006, the European Economic and Social Committee declared in its opinion paper about social tourism in Europe that an activity constitutes social tourism whenever three conditions are met. Real-life circumstances are such that it is totally or partially impossible to fully exercise the right to tourism. This may be due to economic conditions, physical or mental disability, personal or family isolation, reduced mobility, geographical difficulties, and a wide variety of causes which ultimately constitute a real obstacle. Someone, be it a public or private institution, a company, a trade union, or simply an organized group of people, decides to take an action to overcome the obstacle which prevents a person from exercising his right to tourism. This action is effective and actually helps a group of people to participate in tourism in a manner which respects the values of sustainability, accessibility, and solidarity. If we take the considerations from the ISTO, or the International Social Tourism Organization's Montreal Declaration towards a humanist and social vision of tourism, the main assets of social tourism are its effects as a shaper of society, a promoter of economic growth, an industry participating in regional planning and local development, and a partner in global development's program. Actors of social tourism. Governments. The involvement of governments in social tourism activities varies greatly for historical, ideological and social reasons. In some countries, the government, whether national, regional or local, provides significant financial aid. Such aid is often aimed at various groups: young people, senior citizens, people with disabilities, underprivileged people, etc. Governments are currently taking steps to go beyond the national limits of their social tourism programs with various types of transnational exchanges. Employers. It is important to note that there are initiatives such as holiday vouchers whereby employers contribute financially to help facilitate holidays for their staff. Furthermore, as mentioned, it should be borne in mind that social tourism is a major economic activity with great potential and as such attracts entrepreneurs from the tourism sector who see it as a means to boost their activities as service providers or intermediaries. Workers. Ever since social tourism first emerged, trade unions, as the bodies which defend workers' rights, have had a strong presence in tourism as a means of obtaining benefits for their members. Their presence is illustrated through support for physical infrastructure, holiday complexes, guest houses, etc., and for specialized services. Experiences and commitment levels vary from country to country, but in almost all European countries, there is some kind of social tourism activity stemming from trade unions. Specialized associations. These associations include the consumer cooperatives that, in certain countries, have extensive networks of agencies organizing social tourism, together with the youth and environmental organizations operating in this field, and the associations belonging to the social tourism bodies themselves, such as OITS, which carries out important support, coordination, and promotion work. Recipients of social tourism. Families. Family holidays have obviously changed over the last few decades because of the evolution of the family structure, mainly characterized by the smaller size of families and the increase in the number of single-parent families. The mobility of these families is often linked to professional mobility. Although they have changed, family holidays are still an important choice of holidays as they make up for a special moment to revive and strengthen home ties. In this context, that a large part of the population cannot go on holidays is still a real challenge to take up to guarantee that the greatest number of families benefit from time off on holidays. Among the supply related to social tourism, which attracts a great number of families, we need to mention holiday resorts and other similar accommodation structures where there are activities adapted to children of different ages and a series of activities meeting the needs of families. Camping is also an option that is of interest to a significant number of families, allowing a special bond with nature. Young people. The young people's tourism is a phenomenon which has been strongly influenced by post-war youth movements in order to obtain peace. Today, young travelers, 15 to 25 years old, make up for more than 20% of international tourist arrivals, according to statistics established by the World Tourism Organization or the UNWTO. Many factors can explain this tendency, now noticeable in all continents. The increase in education level, the wish to get to know other cultures and to learn a new language, the promotion of this type of experience in the professional field, and the development of a supply of products and services adapted to young clients. A survey from the World Youth, Student and Educational Travel Confederation shows that young people travel more often, want to discover new destinations, spend more than the average in comparison with their income, and they use the internet more to book. Their trips are shorter than the average travelers, all categories of age included, but they seem to get more information about their destination, culture, etc. before they leave. Nowadays, there is a wide range of specialized products and services which are adapted to young clients, ranging from language study vacations to working abroad and cultural exchanges, internships and voluntary service, without forgetting youth hostels and other youth accommodation centers. A lot of different options are also offered to the young people and to students, so they travel at low cost by different means of transport. Seniors. The demographic evolution over the last few years has been characterized by a rapid growth rate of the over 60-year-olds. The tourism industry took into account this population data, and it allowed for the development of a supply of products and services adapted to the needs of those clients in the travel sector. The older population enjoys the countryside, whereas the youth enjoy the seaside more. The average length of their trip is longer than that of the younger people, and a good proportion of them prefer to stay at a friend's place or prefer to stay at a hotel. Seniors favor discovering new things, culture, and the contact with the locals. The tendency to go on holidays is very often influenced by income more than any other factor, such as age or health, which are connected. Hence, the framework of socio-economic policies help seniors go on holidays, especially during lean season, through implementing programs in partnership with the private sector. Disabled people or people with reduced mobility. Disabled people tourism has become an increasingly crucial market. The growing demand is due to different factors. The number of people with disabilities and therefore the number of potential clients is huge. Since disabled people usually travel with a friend, a relative, or a social worker, the number of potential clients is doubled. Disabled people and the elderly can travel in the lean season, which contributes to a more steady demand throughout the year, which all tourist operators wish for. To cater to this demand, they have implemented different services and equipment to allow access for disabled people to holidays and leisure according to their needs and their interests. Nowadays, thanks to accessible tourism, the disabled can access and use the equipment, leisure centers, and different infrastructure. Challenges for the future. The societal challenge. One of the first questions we can raise is whether it is justified to defend the rights to holidays, leisure and tourism for all. Although reality has changed a lot and substantial progress has been made in this field, one has to admit that the issue of tourism for all is still relevant today. A recent EU survey shows that even in the most developed economies in Europe, about 40% of the population does not go on holidays, mainly for financial reasons. This data concerns any population age group, but more especially numerous young people and students who have a limited purchasing power. Families with a modest income who cannot manage to set aside a significant enough holiday budget, and also a great proportion of the elderly who have a lot of time but whose financial resources are sometimes very limited as well. In that social context, taking into account this social dimension, is the current tourism phenomenon, which brings 800 million travelers per year to different places, really a kind of tourism that is favoring social cohesion? The sustainability challenge. The sustainable development of tourism has become a central dimension in any serious tourism development project. Mass tourism, which emerged from the wide expansion of travels, unfortunately caused a lot of prejudices with subsequent environmental, socio-cultural and economic damage. Nowadays, even if there are numerous initiatives to avoid past errors and make sure that the natural resources and the cultural, artistic and historical heritage of the local communities are protected for future generations, the equilibrium is still very fragile. A fundamental way to favor stability and duration of structures is to consider responsibly respect for the current and future environment, contrary to an attitude based on speed and mass movements. We are therefore proud to emphasize that even before international organizations advocated the objective of sustainable development, social tourism had already taken it as a guideline so as to conciliate tourism development, environment protection, and respect of the local population's identity. Bringing new resources to regions often neglected. Lay out sites with the intention of not squandering resources. Generate economic, social and cultural benefits for local populations. The Solidarity Challenge. Solidarity is a challenge which, on a national level, requires us to allow people in economic, family or physical distress to be able to exercise concretely their right to holidays and tourism. Although social tourism is not limited to tourism for the poor and the disabled, it must be clear that, thanks to our roots and our human vision of tourism, we are not indifferent to the less protected and the most underprivileged social layers. This solidarity principle is mainly applied, although not exclusively on an international scale, in a context of north-south tourist flows. The developing countries, especially Africa, Latin America and Asia, face serious problems and several of them rely on the development of tourism to promote their lot. In this context, fair tourism can offer alternatives to ensure that the host communities from those countries can derive real benefits from international tourism. Innovative tourism practices are followed in Africa, Latin America and Asia. In Mexico, there is an interesting supply of alternative trips organized for small groups of around 10 people where people can be accommodated with the host families, get to know local development projects, visit craftsmen's workshops, and also archaeological sites and colonial sites. Those packages include the host communities in the preparation and accomplishment of activities. They encourage contact between visitors and hosts and ensure maximum spillovers for those communities through the support of development projects. The International Social Tourism Organization, or ISTO. To promote access to tourism for all, and more particularly for low-income population groups worldwide, the International Social Tourism Organization, or ISTO, was founded on the 7th of June, 1963 as an international non-profit association. The ISTO organizes a World Congress every 2 years, regional or thematic seminars, as well as workshops aimed at stimulating business opportunities among members and partners. It has a scientific committee which acts as a think tank supporting its action with studies and research. Mission. Founded on June 7, 1963, ISTO aims at promoting access to leisure, holidays and tourism for the greatest number of people, youth, families, seniors and disabled people, with the stakeholders sharing this responsibility, namely the states, social actors and operators. Its mission also aims at promoting a fair and sustainable tourism, ensuring profit for the host populations and respecting the natural and cultural heritage. Actions. The ISTO actions materialize mainly through the spreading of information via its website, magazine, and electronic newsletter, the publication of studies and research, and the participation in cooperation projects and expertise missions. Members. The ISTO counts amongst its members public and private organizations, profit and non-profit making ventures. Among them are tourism associations, holiday centers, and youth hostel networks, agencies and operators, trade unions, cooperatives, NGOs, teaching institutions, and official tourism organizations, all of which play a useful part in social tourism. The ISTO currently has nearly 165 member organizations in 35 countries. The ISTO members are divided into 3 member categories: active members, split into 3 fee levels: honorary members, under public law, and non-honorary members.
That brings us to the end of our discussion on social tourism. Even though social tourism is a new concept to India, compared to the developed nations, it is slowly catching up. I am sure these ideas discussed now will inspire you to come out with innovative applications in the years to come. Thank you.